Welcome everyone to the Wake Up Call channel. The Northern Lights all of a sudden continually are appearing at places they would never appear before. I covered this back in May, and many of you remember the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis coming across the United States of America, and people like me talking about, well, this is bizarre, this isn't normal for this to happen. And of course, every single mainstream media outlet tried to deflect off of the content that people like me were covering at the time. And that is why it's very important to pay attention when they're telling us that there's going to be Northern Lights coming across America, because the government is running an experiment. That's what this is. The Northern Lights apparently are reappearing, and they're calling them the cannibal solar storms. That's right, the cannibal solar storms. You can't make it up how in our faces that these things are. And they're calling it a cannibal eruption that is going to occur. Now, I talk about this being important to note because these are experiments that are being done. Now, many people are going to be subjected to frequencies and radiation type exposure. But what's really important to note is anybody out there that's wondering what I'm talking about is the fact that they can create artificial auroras. Haarp has been creating artificial auroras for quite some time. You can go through the internet archives, you can find them talking about this over 10 years ago. So for anyone that questions whether or not they could simulate the Northern Lights, it's very clear that they can. They've already admitted to doing it in countless articles, and Haarp themselves admits that they're running simulations to recreate artificial aurora lights, okay? So what we need to pay attention to is all of these other stories that surround the fact that they can create artificial aurora borealises whenever they please, is that they're running an experiment. This isn't occurring randomly because all of a sudden something they can't explain is occurring that they tell us is just a natural occurrence. Don't be suspicious of why it's happening out of nowhere over and over and over again, because they need to run these drills before they actually go live with some of these government experiments that we know about that are on the record, like Project Bluebeam. So what we can look at first is the 5G towers that are up. Of course, we all know about the radiation exposure to these 5G towers. What most people don't know is that they can use these 5G towers to artificially simulate and manipulate things in the sky. So they can create simulations in the sky like a Northern Lights in the sky. They can also use these 5G towers to artificially manipulate the weather. And everybody out there who pays attention to this stuff knows this. This is one of the most important things about these 5G towers going up right now, as we're about to see the climate crisis, is that they can use these towers as Haarp in your town, in the town next to yours, and on every highway across America, not just sitting up in Alaska, not just sitting at places like the St. Louis Arches, which we know was put there as a means of weather modification. So the other stuff I want to point out, because people out there just believe that we're all conspiracy theorists, right? Us saying that it's an artificial aurora borealis makes people's heads explode, right? When they have the ability to do this, they've admitted to doing it. People can't get past that because they don't want to believe that these things can be done or man-made, same as weather modification and weather control, right? So when this happened last time, and we were talking about how Haarp was running an experiment, USA Today, all the mainstream media came out and said, no, sigh, Haarp didn't cause the May auroras. That's a solar storm. Fact check, right? As if it's some crazy notion for us to say that Haarp is causing it and can cause it. They don't even want you to realize that they can do this stuff. So they immediately put these fact-checking articles out so you automatically dismiss it and don't even realize that they have the ability to do it in the first place, right? I talked about this when it came to the eclipse. We were all talking about an artificial eclipse. Every mainstream media out there was laughing about us talking about an artificial eclipse. An artificial eclipse. These conspiracy theorists are really out there, right? Meanwhile, one could do their own research and see that even Europe's Proba 3 mission was creating artificial eclipses, and in the future, they want to create artificial eclipses. So when they're talking about doing it in the future, you don't think they already have the ability to do it? Of course they have the ability to do it, and they're going to run test experiments. How are they going to release and a potential artificial eclipse, which remember, some of the articles out there were talking about you throwing a party for a family member and being able to simulate an actual eclipse, a really lavish type wedding type of thing. This is the stuff that was out there from the media, talking about, hey, do you want to have an artificial eclipse? This is the insanity that's out there. Hey, would you like one? And people are like, oh, that would be really neat. But then when we talk about the government using an artificial eclipse to manipulate people and do simulations in the sky and make them think it's a natural occurring event for other reasons, that's a crazy conspiracy, right? So they have the ability to do it. They're even talking about doing it, but for the notion of, well, we're going to do it for your kid's birthday party. What? Huh? We talked about many times this other thing over in Dubai where they've simulated moons in the sky, the 2 moons in Dubai, right? And everybody out there's just like, oh, you're conspiracy nuts talking about the government having the ability to do this. It's out in the open that they have the ability to do it. Now people just need to get past the notion of why they're doing it and what the goal is of manipulating the sky, other than, of course, hitting us with radiation exposure and frequencies. Well, the other reason is very clear. If you haven't noticed lately, Christians are getting gaslit like never before. I've mentioned in previous videos my concerns with Christians falling into this Trump deception, is that they're putting their hope and love and their false idol obsession into Donald Trump. This year, I've discussed, the Vatican has updated its guidelines for evaluating apparitions and supernatural phenomenon, okay? Where the Vatican is going to come out and tell you if something occurring in the sky is an actual supernatural phenomenon, if it's a message from God. And people out there need to pay attention to that. Why? Because if the Vatican is going to come out and declare something in the sky, and we know that they're manipulating the sky using Haarp, telling you that these test runs they're doing are northern lights, well, why wouldn't somebody think, while Christians are getting gaslit, that we all know about the government's Operation Bluebeam, that they wouldn't take the time to do it now? Now is the perfect time for them to try to pull off Project Bluebeam, because Christians are getting gaslit so bad that they're looking in every single direction for either the return of Christ or, in the meantime, to put their hope in the basket of Donald Trump, right? Trump is talking about creating a task force for Christians because Christian oppression is only going to get worse and worse in the coming years. That's what he's talking about, right? That's what he's talking about. Christian task force to protect you and me because things are going to get worse. So most Christians out there are just hoping, oh, things are going to get better. I'm going to get free speech back. I'm not going to feel like I'm under such attack. I don't have to worry about trannies coming to the schools to molest my children and read books in the library. These are all narratives that have been floating around for years, and we all know that Christians are feeling very, very frustrated and under attack. And it is only going to get worse because the Bible tells us about persecution. But now what we're seeing is a shift towards all of these politicians trying to pretend like they're catering to Christians. And guess what? They're not doing it to get your vote, because your vote does not count. Votes are not real. They're doing this so that you start quietly, without even realizing it, putting your hope in man, and you are open to major deceptions. And that's where Project Bluebeam comes in and potential false raptures being created. We all know about the rapture theories that are out there. We're coming close to September 23rd, keep in mind. Every year on September 23rd, they claim that there's going to be a rapture. This has been going on since I've been on YouTube. This has been going on for a long time. I've actually even seen people commenting on my videos recently talking about a September 23rd rapture. What ends up happening is most of these people don't realize that they're being told the same year that the same date every single year is going to be a rapture, and then nothing occurs. Well, there's a chance that one of these years they're going to try to pull something with Project Bluebeam and deceive people. And September 23rd would probably be the perfect day for them to do it, being that there's so much stuff out there on that specific date, and people have become so discouraged from that date that the next year they hope that it's that specific date. So I'm not saying that that is going to occur this year, but what I'm telling you is to look at the stories that are out there, okay? This constant theme of these northern lights appearing over and over and over again, right? In 2024, the northern lights are now appearing when you can only see them in Alaska. People used to go on cruises to go up to Alaska so they could see the northern lights. All of a sudden, they're telling you, hey, you don't got to leave Florida to see the northern lights. And the common person is going, that's really cool, that's really neat, because they can't even grasp the fact that the government has the capability to manipulate the sky, right? Meanwhile, these same people are going to Las Vegas, they're going to concerts, they're seeing all these crazy things that could be done in the sky with simulations, right? They don't think for a second that the government could be manipulating the skies and preparing to do something in the sky. So we have to look at how all this stuff lines up, right? We know that Haarp has the ability to create artificial aurora borealis. They've been doing it for a while, okay? We now know that these 5G towers are up all around us. These towers that they tell you are there to make your phone go faster, but are really there to send out frequencies. You ever notice how these towers just keep appearing, and they kept appearing and appearing and appearing while everybody was locked down, and now you go outside and you don't even notice that they're out there? But they're everywhere. Every couple miles, you'll find them in a field, you'll find them on a highway, but everybody's so desensitized they don't even notice them, and they actually think that those towers are there to make their phones run faster. But if you told them that they went from 3G to 4G to 5G, they wouldn't even know the difference. At the same time, again, talking about the Vatican, talking about apparitions, supernatural phenomenon, and of course, Donald Trump and this massive gaslighting that's going on right now with Christians. We have to keep an eye on all of these things because most people out there can feel what's going on. You can feel it in your bones. You can feel it in your blood. You can feel it every day, right? I read a lot of the comments, if not all the comments on my videos. I see how everybody's feeling. And we all know that massive deceptions are coming. Project Bluebeam is a documented government operation. It is a planned operation that's been talked about since the late 80s. We are in 2024. Would Project Bluebeam have worked in the year 1990? Highly unlikely. Would it have worked in the year 2000? Highly unlikely. And most people correlate Project Bluebeam with an actual alien invasion. But don't forget the other theories with Project Bluebeam as far as a false messiah appearing in the sky at a time where Christians don't even realize, not only are Christians putting all their hope in these politicians who pretend to be Christian, all they need to do is go up there and tell them that they're Christian, and all these people defend them, believe them. They're irate that people like me and you question and don't believe in Donald Trump. It bothers them so much so. It seems like it bothers them more that people like us are saying that Donald Trump is not a Christian, that Donald Trump is one of them, than it would be if they met somebody who didn't believe in Jesus Christ. Seems like it bothers them more. Now, they won't admit that because they're under the deception that's going on. And part of the reason that they feel so drawn to Trump is because they feel persecuted. So this is a time where Christians are ripe for the picking. They are ripe to be deceived. I can sense it. You can sense it. Everybody can sense it. We sense it with Trump. Now just imagine they do something along the lines finally with Bluebeam. Then we would have the coup d'etat, so to speak. And remember, Trump was talking about how Christians weren't going to need to vote again in 4 years. How Christians would not need to vote. So those are all interesting things. Why would Christians not need to vote again in 4 years? Because what? Can we get an explanation? Oh, your vote won't matter in 4 years? Oh, because everything's going to get... You notice the pattern with a lot of these people who worship Trump. Instead of just being open to the whole concept of, yeah, it could be one of them. There's people who go, oh, it could be one of them. I'll vote for him, but I'm not going to get overly invested. I'm not going to get overly, I'm not going to fall for it so much so I'll vote because I want to vote. You don't see that anymore. They're angry if you don't want to vote. They're angry if you don't want to participate in the left-right. And they're certainly very angry if you don't think that he was hand-chosen by God. Don't forget the divine intervention themes as well. So what we're seeing is another aurora borealis, the cannibal eruption, what a wonderful name, which looks a lot like a crescent moon if you look at some of the pictures they're showing us, which is going across... it looks like a perfect crescent moon going across the northern U.S. and Canada, right? And they're telling you can expect this over and over and over again. They're not telling you why you can expect it. They're giving you bogus scientific reasons about the magnetic field, which seems to program these people into having a defense as to why we should believe it's actually real. Well, it's the magnetic fields. This is occurring with the magnetic fields. Oh, right. But in, most of our, however old you are, 50, 60 years old, all the time you've been here on Earth, nobody's been able to see this over North America. But now all of a sudden, we're supposed to be able to see this all the time, frequently. We're having eclipses more frequently. We're having these simulations in the sky more frequently because something is coming in the sky eventually. And if you look at all the other stuff going on with the Vatican, about, them telling you if it's a supernatural phenomenon or not, to me, it lines up perfectly with a potential Bluebeam in the making very, very soon. So keep an eye on this story. I'm not saying that this is obviously it, but they're running the simulation right now. So pay attention to the simulations as they're out there and watch how people respond to it. Show them this video. Just say, hey, they can create artificial auroras, and see what they don't even know that you can do it. Well, once you realize that they are doing it and can do it, and you can even find it documented by the government, that they're running these experiments, creating artificial auroras, creating artificial moons, creating artificial eclipses. Ask yourself then, why is it out of the realm of possibility that they're running some type of an experiment right now? And is the experiment more than just an experiment where they're running and sending mass amounts of radiation at civilians, which should not be allowed, which is crimes against humanity by the definition of what that term means? You don't think that they could create some type of an illusion in the sky and deceive people with it, especially Christians right now who are feeling vulnerable? I feel like now, more than ever, we're getting closer and closer to actually seeing Project Bluebeam and the deceptions that are going to come with it. For anybody out there that wants more information on Project Bluebeam, you can find my videos over on my website, uprisinglives.com. I highly recommend you check it out and join over there. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.